Now, NATO leaders will meet in the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius, for their annual summit next week, where Sweden's membership will be one of the main topics. It's a summit that's getting a lot of attention in the international press today, and let's get a sense of what's going on, how it's being covered with Diptyque Laurent. On that issue, this is something that's, whatever paper you look at the moment, there's a big concentration on NATO.
Yeah, that's right, and I dare say that it'll certainly amp up in the days to come. But the New York Times has an interesting article that looks at how NATO leaders were actually hoping that this annual summit this year would be a chance to celebrate Sweden's adhesion to the bloc. It seems like, though, that's on ice for the moment because, of course, Bulgaria, but also Turkey, notably, have not really given their approval to Sweden joining the bloc yet. Turkey, notably, has gripes with Sweden over it accuses Sweden of providing a free operating environment to Turkish dissidents, including a particular religious group accused of trying to overthrow Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan back in 2016. Now, of course, after the war in Ukraine, Gavin, Sweden and Finland both signed up to join NATO, ending decades of a non-military-based foreign policy. New York Times explaining in this article that this is actually a big thing. NATO officials fear that if the Swedish membership issue lingers for months, it could be seen as a symbolic victory for Vladimir Putin and a symbolic loss for the bloc.
But I guess the circle they can't square at the moment is how do you go to the support of a country at war when it is ordinarily at war? So that's the difficulty of becoming a NATO member in the midst of the conflict. On that note, if you're going to look at what is going to happen to NATO over the next 10 years, Foreign Policy magazine have got a brilliant analysis.
Yeah, they have a really interesting article. It's well worth a read today. They've actually reached out to 9 thinkers, they say, on the issue, including Anders Fogh Rasmussen, the former NATO chair, to Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba. They each 9 thinkers pen their thoughts on where NATO is heading in the next decades. Rasmussen, for instance, advocates beginning Ukraine's NATO membership now. He says it shouldn't happen after the end of the war because that would just give Vladimir Putin a chance to continue this war infinitely. Kuleba, in his think piece, says that unlike in 2008 at the NATO annual summit back then, when Ukraine's membership was last evoked, this time round Ukraine has proven itself to be a, quote, net contributor of security and has proven itself capable of defending its territory, and that's why it should be accepted as a member. Other think pieces also look at a potential return of Trump to the White House and the impact that could have on NATO, but also the rising influence, of course, China and how to counter that within NATO. Well worth a read, yeah.
And on Russia, there's almost a sort of comedic story with a macabre undertone of what is going on with Evgeny Prigozhin, the mystery mutineer who's not been seen. Maybe he's in St. Petersburg, maybe he's in Belarus, where the Russian said he is, but Belarus's leader said he's not there. That is being focus of much of the press, including these new pictures of his opulent house.
That's right. Russian authorities raided his mansion in St. Petersburg. It's in the Daily Mail today where they talk about it, posting pictures of what were reportedly his personal effects. There were gold bars, there was a huge cache of weapons, a stuffed alligator, a photo of severed heads. There was also this is a giant sledgehammer, and written, inscribed reportedly on the sledgehammer was to be used in case of important negotiations. And of course there were his many disguises that the Russian media have used to great joy to humiliate and discredit Evgeny Prigozhin. Photos of him in various disguises that were published on pro-Russian channels on the social media app Telegram. So Russia certainly using this as publicity to humiliate the leader of Wagner.
And a story you wouldn't necessarily put together, French basketball star Victor Wembanyama in a clash with Britney Spears.
Yeah, that's right. A very bizarre but well-publicized altercation, Gavin, with Britney Spears. She accuses the San Antonio Spurs security guard of of striking her in the face or slapping her or backhanding her when she, apparently a fan of Victor Wembanyama, approached him in a restaurant to say hi. Now, this was first reported on the celebrity website TMZ, who have pictures of, reported pictures of that altercation. In an interview with reporters, USA Today says Wembanyama said that that she tried to grab him from behind, and that his team told him to keep walking, and that he didn't realize what had actually happened until much later. Britney Spears says it was a friendly pat. Wembanyama nonetheless will be hoping to put the drama aside. He makes his debut for the Spurs this Friday against the Charlotte Hornets in the Summer League. Gavin.
Finally, to the Italian capital, Rome, the Pope's bakery closing down.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad story, a sad end for 79-year-old Angelo Arrigoni. His father opened this bread shop in 1930. It's just a stone's throw away from St. Peter's Square, and since Pius XI's papacy, the bakery has been serving bread to popes for decades. It ended up hand-delivering bread to the papal household. The baker says now that the steep energy prices and the touristic transformation of the neighborhood, which is sort of inched out locals, means that his local customer base on which he depended has evaporated. So he's had to now, unfortunately, shut the bakery, and not even papal prayers can save this historic piece of Roman history.
Oh, it's sad. Pius XI's papacy, tongue twister.